Hey everybody! Welcome to Monday Night Live in Lexington, you guys. My name is Kathryn Kauffman, and I'm a psychic medium here in Lexington, Kentucky. Welcome to my every Monday night show. This is where we discuss what and who we are in this journey called life. Okay, I am trying to get, let's see here, I need to get Michael Cook on here for you guys. Add viewers to be in your broadcast. Let's do it. Okay. I sent an invite. Let's hope that Michael gets it and he joins us here. Nice to see you guys. Hey to Sharon Bernard, Paige Denise. We are having to do this on my phone tonight, and a special shout out to Patty Ann Kreider, because I had massive technical issues this evening. Be Live would not work. I got Michael on there, but he couldn't see or hear me. I could see and hear him perfectly okay. He couldn't see or hear me. And then we tried Zoom, and every time I gave him the link to join, it kept telling him that I was in another meeting. So I thought, you know what? We're just going to have to use the phone. That is just crazy, though. I mean, the quality of the video is not going to be as good using the phone, but whatever, right? Hey to Sandra Lee Small, Melissa Arthur Woosley, Deanna Combs, Will Height, Julie Broghammer, and Betty Anderson. Good to see you guys this evening. I'm doing this all on my phone, so there we go. There's Michael. Come on, Michael, join in the party. Special shout out to my cousin, Grace Bone Pell. And here comes Michael, hopefully. Waves and kisses to all you guys. Hey, Michael, what's up, man?
Hello, everybody.
Oh, my God. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
So, everybody, this is Michael Cook. He is a cryptid researcher and has been for the last 20 years, and was recently featured by the Travel Channel in season 2. If you want to go and check out his account, it was really exciting. I was so stoked to see the video on that. That was just awesome. So tonight I wanted to do a special kind of Halloween show and have you talk about your experience, the latest experiences, Michael, that you've had, specifically, I guess the one that the Travel Channel kind of featured.
Okay, yeah,
Where did that happen? Like, where did that happen, and when did that happen?
that happened on October 6th, 2018. And that
October.
was, yep. Yeah. Most of my experiences have happened in October, oddly enough. The first
That's
experience,
interesting. Yeah, tell us about it. Where were you when that happened?
we had went to the Pinnacles. First off, a little background of the area. I had researched there quite a lot over the years prior to this, and it kind of fell off dead. I mean, it really did. Nothing was going on after several trips in there, so we kind of gave it a break. And I decided, my girlfriend at the time, Gwendolyn Guthrie, and our friend Kenny wanted to go squatching. So I said, okay, I'm not going to take them into a real active place. So we decided to go into the Pinnacles. I said, I'll show you where some things have happened, And we got up there and it got dark on us. We didn't have any lights. We hadn't planned on being out late at all. So once it got dark, Kenny came up with 3 flashlights. They were small keychain flashlights. And if you watch the Travel Channel show, the flashlights were much bigger on the show than they were in real life. They were just bright enough to see what we were doing. And
wow.
And if anybody's ever been on the Pinnacles, you know what it's like. It's straight up and down in some places.
Yeah,
And
you got to be careful. You're not going to go off the edge.
right. So we come down and we come straight down what they call the Indian Trail. There's 3 or 4 different ways to get up to the top, but if you go straight down the middle, it's called the Indian Lookout Trail. And my dog just ran through hauling ass.
That's kind of spooky.
So we come off the Indian Lookout Trail and made our way on down. And while we were about halfway or so, I noticed that there was something trailing us, paralleling us, whatever you want to call it. And
Did you get a gut feeling first, or did you just, or did you notice something, or did you just like the hair on the back of your neck stand up or anything?
Well, as you can tell, there's not much hair on my head or on the back of my neck. So, no, I can honestly say I didn't have any kind of feeling at first, but once I started listening, I kind of knew what it was. And, here I am. I have 2 people with me that I care about that we're in a sketchy situation. So I tell Gwen, I said, we got to get off here. Let's get down flat ground. Um, in reality, I was saying, we can't run. We can't run downhill.
Right.
So if we got into a pursuit situation, the worst thing you can possibly do is run anyway. But if you have to running downhill you're not going to do it. So we got down probably a good 500 yards from the parking lot, and we stopped. It was level. There was a little dip there we were standing in, and I told him what was going on. I didn't tell him up on the mountain simply because there's you don't want to put people in a panic. And if you tell them, there's potentially a 7 to 9 foot, 500-pound creature, tracking us, that puts me in a panic. In fact, I was already in somewhat of an excitement panic. I wasn't really panicking as far as being terrified at the time.
Yeah.
So I told him what was going on. I said, I think we might have something following us. Could it be a Bigfoot? Sure. Could it be anything else? Yeah, absolutely. So I just picked up a stick and I said, I'm going to do a wood knock. And I popped the tree. Now, I'm going to refer back and forth to the show. On the show, it's dramatized a little bit. It shows me, or the actor portraying me, shows him knocking the tree 3 times. In reality, I only hit the tree once.
Gotcha.
And as soon as I hit that, we heard it was a definitive wood on wood knock.
Yeah.
Right above us. And I said, okay, that's what we got. This is where we're at. So,
yeah.
After that, it kind of, on the show again, Kenny says, all hell broke loose, and it really did. It got really, really scary really quick.
Oh, wow.
What scared me the most is, after the first initial wood knock, we had 2 creatures come in, and they were getting pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
And then at one time, we heard 6 definitive, distinct movements around us. Now, does that mean there were 6 creatures? Absolutely not. That just means I heard 6 different movements.
Right.
So here I am in a situation that I, researching for 18 years at the time, had never been in. These 2 had never been in any kind of situation like this.
Oh my God, yes.
So we get, I'm here in this situation. I've got 2 people, like I said, I care about greatly. And I've put them in imminent danger. And that's probably the worst feeling you could ever have, knowing that something could possibly happen to somebody you love, you care about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's really nothing you can do about it. But these creatures are walking around us. They're slapping the trees. They're making themselves known. And, I walk over, Gwen, she has Native American in her, and she drew a design in the sand, in the dirt. And
Mm-hmm.
she said that it was, for protection, as long as she stayed in her circle, um, she would be protected. So Kenny and I are standing there, a good few feet away. And I said, Kenny, are you okay? And I just reached over and I put my hand on his chest. And when I did, his chest, you could feel his heart beating.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
he was cold, he was sweaty. And I said, Kenny, man, you okay? And he goes, no, I'm not. I mean, it was straight up. I'm not okay. I'm
Yeah.
ready to get out of here. And I said, okay, this is it. We need to go. So I walk over to Gwen, and I'm watching her, and I take my backpack off and pull out my firearm, which is a 40 caliber Ruger. And
Mm,
I hadn't pulled it out at any moment during that.
that's the best thing you packed with you.
Right. So
Oh, God.
I pull my firearm out, and I have this little belt clip. I clipped it on my belt, and mainly not because of what was going on, but we were going toward the car anyway. It's one of these things where I'm thinking ahead. I'm going to go ahead and get my gun out. That way, I can go ahead and put it in the glove compartment when I get to the car. That's really and
Yeah.
truly. I mean, swear to God, that's the only reason I pulled it out.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Um, but once I walked up to Gwen, and I just barely did touch her shoulder, and I said, "Hey, honey, we've got to get out of here." And I got that out of my mouth, and something came screaming toward us. I mean,
Oof.
you could feel the ground moving. And when the dust settled, metaphorically speaking, when the dust settled, I'd already pulled my firearm, had one in the chamber, and I
Wow.
was pointing toward the sound. Gwen was already behind me, kneeled down, and I just said, "You listen, you got to stop. This is enough. I'm done. We're getting out of here. We're not going to bother you. Don't bother us. But if you do,
Yeah.
believe me, I'm going to unload."
Yeah.
And I told Gwen, I said, I got her and Kenny together. I said, listen, you two go in front of me. If something happens, I'd rather it happen to me. Um, hope to God that it doesn't happen. But if it does, what I want you to do, I know I've told you not to run this whole time, but if something does happen, run as
That's when
fast as
you
you
run.
can. Get to the
Yeah.
car, lock the doors, call 911, whatever you have to do. Um, do not mention, utter the words Bigfoot, because if you do, they won't come.
Right.
And she said, "What about you?" I said, "Well, I'm okay with this. I really am. I mean, I've not had a long life, but for what it's worth, I've had a good life." And
Yeah.
in the moment, I took my phone out and I sent my kid a message and said, "Hey, bub, I love you. Just thinking of you." And that, let that be the last thing I say. God knows, bub. I don't want to die. I'm not until I'm
No, but
at least
you gotta be
80.
prepared. Yeah. Yeah.
But you put yourself in these situations. It's up there on the top ways I'm going to die. I mean, it really is. I mean, and it's just realistically speaking. You go out, you go out in the woods and stuff. Chances are it might even be a heart attack, but nevertheless, you're probably going to die out there.
Yeah.
But they got about 10, 15 foot in front of me, and I'm walking, and I just turned my head, like this, and looked over my shoulder with the little flashlight, and something, good 9, 10 foot tall, stepped across the trail behind me. And if anybody's ever been on the trails or the pinnacles, they're 8 to 10 foot wide. One
Yeah.
step, one step was it. That was it. It just,
Wow.
and
That is huge.
that's when I kind of went into survival mode again. And I said, I don't think I'm ready to do this. And I walk up and I put my hands on both their backs and I said, come on, let's pick it up a little bit, step up the pace. And we get down to the cars and, the rest is, history. But the strangest things happened during that, the whole night we had our cell phones were drained of battery. Um,
Well, that's interesting.
it is.
How
And
how do you account for that? Do you think is there a paranormal element to this that was draining the batteries?
I believe so. I believe that these things do possess some kind of supernatural uh, ability, if you will.
Well, a
I
lot of people are saying that they're intradimensional.
That's also a very good theory. I mean, I would not discount that. Um, my whole way of thinking was, in October of 2000, one rolls off the hill in front of me into the river, out of myth and into reality for me.
Right.
And, my
What year
whole,
was that, Michael?
that was October of 2000.
Okay,
Um,
so and then the next one was 2018.
no, the next visual encounter with them was in 2015 with
Oh,
Glenn Mink
okay.
and myself at the Pinnacles. We encountered two of them. We had both saw the same thing. We saw one crouch down in the road in front of us, and when we walked the way it ran, we came upon it and another one. The other one was a good 9 foot tall or so, um, huge, just a big, massive animal. When that happened, about 2 weeks later, we went back in there to do some more research, and we didn't see any Bigfoot. We saw a blue light. Um,
Hmm.
the blue light came toward us, pitch black dark. We thought it was another hiker,
Uh-huh.
and it came straight toward us, and then it rose up in the air, probably 25, 30, maybe even 40 feet,
Ooh.
and it burst in a big flash. When
Okay, so I have to interrupt real quick. What month was that?
that was in November, so you're
Okay,
you're
so
you're October, November, then October again. But
so that leads me to think that this may have something to do with the thinning of the veil during this time of year, in October and November especially.
I think you might be onto something. I mean that entails more research about it, but most encounters and most researchers, this is the season of the Squatch. I mean, from mid-September all the way up till December here there in Kentucky,
Yeah.
it it's it's a very active time of the year. Now you can attest a lot of that to the extreme heat and humidity that's around in
Hmm.
the summer. You gotta put your mind, put yourself in their shoes. You're covered in hair. You weigh 500 to 800 pounds. Um, I'd say heat is probably a very, very uncomfortable time for these creatures, if I were guessing. Um,
Hence the nocturnal nature, maybe.
mhm. And that's actually a research theory. Also, is why they're nocturnal is because it's cooler at night. Um,
Right. But
the
we're bringing another theory in. If they are interdimensional, maybe the thinning of the veil in September, October, November allows them to interact with our dimension in a more tactile way.
Probably, possibly, you gotta, and this is not a new theory as far as the time of the year goes. The Patterson Gimlin film happened October 20th, 1967.
Right, right.
So
It's sure.
I for the it escapes me what month the Freeman footage was filmed, but most encounters and stuff do happen during this time. Now that's not saying no encounters happen during the summer months or whatever. It's just depending on where you are.
Mm-hmm.
Now, case in point, the year is 2018. Jeff Ellis and I went on a cross country adventure that ultimately ended up at the Patterson Gimlin Film Site in Bluff Creek, Northern California, Six Rivers National
Uh-huh.
Forest.
Right.
During that time we were there, we had what could be chalked up as quasi Bigfoot activity. The most terrifying thing that's ever happened to me in my whole life happened there. It was a grizzly bear,
Oh my
and
God.
we walked right up on it. And
Oh,
when it stood up, it was feet, literally feet from me. And that's the moment where you start really rethinking yourself. You're like, why am I even
why
here?
am I out here?
What am I doing? And Jeff, another good piece of advice is don't run. Jeff, he eased up. He said, "What do we do?" I said, "Whatever you do, don't run."
Yeah.
I said, "I don't run, because you run, I'm in front. I'm dead. I'm
So
done."
now back to 2018 when you guys were trying to make your way out of this situation. And there were they panicking? Were the people with you panicking, or were they keeping it under control because of you?
Uh, Gwen and Kenny both were very, very professional. Now, those who watch the TV show, I'm gonna, I will stress this, and I stress this from the get go. What you see, remember, before anything, it is a TV show.
Oh
Now,
yeah.
that being said, 95% of that show, that episode in particular, 95% of it was absolutely 100% to a T.
Right.
However, that 5%, um, I was just talking about this earlier. The guy they had playing me is a fit, military looking dude, and, maybe not.
That's kind of a compliment though, right?
Right. Well, it was a joke when I left the studio the day we filmed that. I said, get somebody that, whoever plays me, make sure they look good. And they did. He was a good looking cat. So he, the girl playing Gwen, she kind of amped it up a little bit on the show. Gwen was not freaking out as much as what the girl was portraying her.
Right.
Kenny was pretty close to dead on the money. I mean, he had his moments where he was freaking out. But you cannot look down on him for that. Put yourself in his situation.
Oh, I don't know what I would have done. I don't know. And I've come up against a lot of paranormal stuff, lots of paranormal stuff. And I think I would probably panic more on something real, like tangible like that, rather than something paranormal. If
well,
something paranormal happened to me, I'd be like, oh,
I'm the same. I'm the same way. I think I've had 5 visual encounters with Bigfoot. I've had unmeasurable accounts with them as far as vocalizations and tree knocks and stuff. Like, I couldn't even begin to start counting those. But as far as visual encounters go, you never get over your last. Or your first. I actually, it's a pretty bad analogy, but I I put it real close to. I've never done it, so I don't know. But what I've read, I put it pretty close to like a drug high.
yeah.
You chase
Well,
that
you've got
first
a lot of
high.
adrenaline flowing because this is an abnormal situation. And so that amount of chemical in your body is going to affect you just like a drug would.
Exactly. And that first encounter when I was pretty much a kid. It's funny when you get a certain age, anything under 20 is a kid. So
Yeah.
when I was a kid and had that, I don't know if I could ever have that adrenaline rush again. But sheer, you know, unfiltered raw terror is what that is. And,
Wow.
you know, you're looking at something that is not supposed to exist.
And your
Um,
brain knows that.
your brain knows that, but your eyes and your brain are having a real hard time with each other. And even now today, you know, fast forward 20 years later, you know, I'm a believer, I'm a knower, I know these things exist. But that being said, at the very presence of these creatures, uh, it's a terror. It's something that overwhelms you. Even today, like I said, I know they exist, but if I saw one walk through my yard right now, I would have to say that's not supposed to be.
Oh
You
my God,
know,
yes. So when you got back to the car after the 2018 incident, and I would like for you to give a little bit more information on how people can go and watch the episode, because I've watched it. It was great. It was very entertaining, but yet it told the story, very thoroughly. And like, how did you feel when you got back to the car?
relief. Um, I joke, but hungry. Honest to God. So listen to this. So prior to this incident happening, we had went to what they call the mysterious Monroe House up in Hartford City, Indiana.
Oh, okay.
And
I remember that.
okay, so we went there and it was a crazy 48 hours. We were in one of the most haunted places around. And so, you know, you, and I say you like I'm being prejudiced, but you paranormal people, um,
It's
you
true. It's
paranormal,
true.
well, you paranormal folks, you all could probably explain a little bit more than me because, you know, you're already interacting with the spiritual world. So does that, I mean, you're talking about the veil and all that, but on a personal level, does that mean that you are still open to the supernatural once you leave that place for a little while? Or, you know, could anything besides dumb luck have anything to do with what happened to us that night?
Well, when you go anywhere and you are seeking to connect with something or someone, you are throwing an energy cord out into the quantum field. And when you extend that energy cord out, you're searching for either an entity or a thing. And once you
Mm-hmm.
connect with that, it takes a while to disconnect that energy. And so you have to really try very hard to make that disconnection. And sometimes it takes several days to do that after you do an investigation or after you go on a squatch hunt, so to speak. But you know, we're all connected through energy, and once you extend that energy and connect, you're wanting to connect with something, it's not so easy just to disconnect from that sometimes.
Well, you know, with us that whole night, like, you know, I said previously, our phones, we went in with 100%. Halfway up the trail, I look at my phone, I check my phone, and it's like at 70, and then, and, you know, so forth and so on. We had just enough up on the top to take a few pictures. And then, you know, Gwen, she had a she had a power bank with her, so she charged her phone up pretty quick.
Yeah.
And you know, but here's the craziest thing about it, you know, and I say crazy because there's no other word. We started filming this when this first started happening. From the encounter as soon as I tree knocked and everything. For
Yeah.
53 minutes, we were on YouTube live, streaming this. Now, prior to this, we were on YouTube live for hours and hours and hours up at the Monroe House,
Yeah.
and no kind of malfunctions or anything. So we filmed this. We had vocalizations on this also.
Wow.
And when we went to save it and share it, you know, to make it, you know, viewable as a saved video, it malfunctioned. And
Of course.
it only saved 9 minutes of it. The first 9 minutes. You can go on
Of
YouTube. I think
course.
it's on Uncharted Paracryptid Studies YouTube
Yeah.
channel, and
Well,
watch the first 9 minutes.
Michael, if you think about it, if it is an interdimensional being, the electromagnetic fields are going to be so distorted. It is not any wonder that it would not share, or it wouldn't, you know, connect appropriately.
I even went as far to contact YouTube, and they have a database for. I don't. Bad news, folks. If you type in whatever you type into that search engine, your IP address, your username, everything is right there, knowing what you're doing on YouTube
Oh yeah.
headquarters.
Oh yeah.
So they went through and looked up, the streaming time and all this. They see every single malfunction that happens.
Right.
Nothing happened that night. It was just like we streamed for 9 minutes and that was it. And that was
Right.
it.
That's
So
what they receive, though, right?
that's what they received. And, the rest of the 40 some odd minutes, where did it go? It was like it was never even on. Um, and
I'll tell you exactly where it went. It is out there in space
it's
somewhere.
bouncing around, in the cosmos. Um, but the days following that, it was a relief. Like I said, when we got to the cars, just thank God. I went home, went straight to bed, slept like a baby that night. Talked to a friend of mine that evening about it. Was it something that caused me severe mental distress? No, no. I was just thankful that we all got out. And
Oh yeah. I, when I
and
saw the video, I was like,
it you can tell, like on the YouTube video, you can tell I'm being as calm as I possibly can be, with everything going on.
well, I
But
think you did a good job of holding it together.
the nerves didn't start until we walked into the film studio in Philadelphia. No, so following the days following were real interesting as far as my life. I was already in talks with the Travel Channel to do something with them, and I was on the phone with the producer. I was 3 or 4 days later, and I said, he said, man, I think we got a lot here. It's good, blah, not giving too much away of what we were going to do.
Yeah.
And he said, I said, well, you know what? Craziest thing is, man, we had something happen a few days ago. And he said, wait a minute, what? So I said, yeah, man, he says, like, how many were there? And I said, there were 3 of us. And he said, okay. So a few Skype meetings later, listening to Gwen and Kenny tell their sides of the story, they
Yeah.
determined that would be something good to film. So we flew up to Philadelphia in mid-December that year.
Yeah.
Stayed for a couple of days. The filming part of that was a nightmare. And it was literally, we got there at like 8 or 9 o'clock that morning, and it was in a sound studio. They had where the band and stuff would normally play at. They had that partitioned off, and
Mm-hmm.
all the curtains and stuff up, the backdrops. But
Mm-hmm.
there was just me, a producer, and the cameraman, and then behind the curtain was the sound guy. They rigged all this stuff up, to get high quality sound, to get my southern drawl good. But it took us 10 hours to film that, and for something that aired on TV for 45 minutes. But my part took the longest because we went back to the beginning. They
Right.
didn't use any of it. They used the first 2 seconds of it about me talking about being a researcher and giving my background a little bit of clarity and all that. But
So, but you know what I'm going to do is, you remember when we first met and we did the video of your first encounter? What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a link to that video and put it in the comments after the show. So if anybody wants to see and hear that firsthand account, the first account that you had, that video is going to be in the comments section for you guys to look at.
yeah, it's
But
worth it. I don't talk about it much anymore simply because uh it happened so long ago, and it was just me. And I'm a very
mhm.
truthful person. I'm honest to a fault, actually. Um,
Yes, I know.
and you know, I have no reason to lie. In fact, I have all the reasons to lie about it not ever happening.
Oh, yeah, because it can cause a lot of problems in your life.
It can, and love life, friendships, relationships with your family, even down to jobs. I've always kept my professional life and my Bigfoot life and my personal life, all three separate entities.
Right.
Um, it's not. I mean, it's impossible to hide it forever, but sooner or later somebody's going to find out, and then they're going to ask you about it. But
That's kind of like being psychic. How many
mm,
years did I hide that? I hid that for, I don't know, 35, 39 years. But then I figured, and I'll tell you this too, is that if the people around you can't accept you for who you are in a truthful, honest way, then you don't need to be around them.
well, I look at it too. There's more to me than the Bigfoot stuff. There's way more to me than that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it. I mean, people back home know me for who I am, and
Mm-hmm.
I get questions a lot, but in the same respect, the people that know me back home know that I've been doing this for years and years, and I don't get it as much now. When the TV show aired, that was an experience because I was in Asheville, North Carolina, celebrating my birthday week that week.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not know that it was coming out that particular day because this had been 2 years before we filmed it. And
Right.
we hadn't heard nothing from anybody about when it was going to air. So I'm actually sitting down eating lunch, and I get this message, and it says, "Hey, your episode's going to be on tonight." And I said,
Oh, wow. How exciting.
"Yeah." So I'm like, "Whoa!" So I look at my buddy that I met in Nashville, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm going to be on Travel Channel tonight." He goes, "No kidding." So I'm I'm thinking, I call mom and dad. I said, "Boy, if you don't care, record it. DVR it for me, and I'll watch it when I get home." So, swear to God, I'm at a bar that night, and I'm sitting there, and there's like me and these two old ladies next to me, and then like several other people walk in, and the bartender goes, "Hey, are you all watching this?" And I don't know what was on. I said no, and he goes, "Cool, I want to watch this show that I like." And damn it, when he turned to the Travel Channel,
That is
I
awesome.
said,
There you
"Hey,"
were.
I said, "Man, let's not do this." And he goes, "What? Don't you believe?" And I was like, "Oh, you're getting ready to
That's me.
find
Yes,
out."
I believe.
So I'm sitting there, and I look up thinking, nobody's in this bar going to be watching this TV. And I look up, and there's me wearing the
Yeah.
same shirt I'm wearing. And I'm like, crap. And
So
I
that's the
look,
universe. That is the universe giving you a special happy birthday.
I look over, and the old ladies that are next to me, they are looking dead at me. And that one's like, "Do you know him?" I'm like, "Looks,
I am him.
look, he's a good looking guy. I can tell you that." And
That's awesome. That is so
so
awesome.
I look around, and everybody in that bar is panned to the TV, and then they just kind of look over at me, and I'm like, crap. So it was an
Yep.
interesting night. It was very
So
cool.
I have a question for you. You're now in Tennessee, right?
Yeah.
Are there any locations that you've looked at in Tennessee that you might want to do an investigation on?
Smoky Mountains are always lit up with certain creepy things. There's always places to go. The Smoky Mountains more than anything, though. It's a hot spot. It's where Les Stroud had his uh, supernatural mind speak encounter. Um, UFOs over the Smoky Mountains. I mean, nobody wants to talk about those, but it's a known phenomenon that there are UFOs over the Smokies. You're
Wow.
the way the crow flies. I mean, you're not that far from the Brown Mountain Lights, northern Georgia. So
Mhm.
that all being said, I there's a lot. I
So, do you
really
have anything that you want to do this spring?
survived Corona. Uh,
Well, besides that,
I want, you know what I want to do more than anything, all jokes aside, I want to go to Walmart or a restaurant without wearing a mask.
oh
I
God, yes,
I
please,
want
Lord.
I want our lives to go back to normal. And they say this is the new normal. I refuse to believe this.
No, this is not, I refuse to believe it too. I'm
Um,
rejecting it. We're going to go back to non-mask and being able to hug each other and give each other a kiss and, welcome each other into our houses. If it doesn't, Lord, take me, please.
I as far as spring goes, as far as research goes, no, my research as phew, my research is almost barely scraping by anymore. Uh, and that's
So one of the
because
viewers is asking, have you been to Frozen Head?
uh, no, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Oh, so that came from Tom and Joy Hall. If you could, Joy, just put on there exactly where Frozen Head is. Maybe he's been to something near that. So,
Possibly.
and after the show, I hate to ask you, Michael, but after the show, if you could go through the comments and kind of answer people's questions that they've had,
Yeah, don't
that
care
would
one
be
bit. And
lovely.
if you have a question you don't want to pop on the comments, go ahead and just shoot me a message.
Message,
uh,
definitely.
I'll answer it privately if you want me to. But as far as spring goes, no, I don't really have anything. I'm kind of going with the flow right now. My life is extremely busy anymore, and with the move and all that stuff that happened near
Yeah.
Wartburg, Tennessee, Finding Bigfoot did an episode there. I know where Wartburg is, but I've never done any kind of research out there. So
Wow. Okay.
that
So she says there's a lot of sightings there.
well, Tennessee is a hot spot. Also, is Kentucky. Anywhere along the Appalachian Mountains range is hot spots. But my life, my life is Bigfoot void right now. To be honest with you, I mean,
I
2018 was
think everything's come to a grinding halt during Corona, but um, I talked to you briefly about I really want to look more into the goblins of Hellier.
now I know the Newkirk's done the Hellier show,
Yeah.
and I think it's on season 2 now.
Uh-huh.
And there's connections they've made that no one else has made.
Yeah, I know. I
Mainly
know.
the cave systems in Kentucky. And
Mm-hmm.
it's the goblins of Hellier is actually something that's more known around Hellier than it is everybody when Hellier first comes out, everybody's like, what is this? Well, it's a town in eastern Kentucky. Okay.
Yeah.
But you go to Hellier and you say, hey, you find anybody in that town, say, hey, what about the goblins? And they'll say, what about them? There's
Well, they
no
know about.
Yeah, there's no, I don't know what you're talking about, or they don't exist, or it's what you know about them.
What do you want?
I sounded just like President Trump just then. I don't know about them, but they don't exist. They're the greatest. They're the greatest goblins on earth.
We got to go, Michael. We got to do that.
Yeah, we need to go. Let's plan that for this spring.
Let's plan
Let's
that.
put that on the agenda. And God willing, my health is okay that we can, do something like that.
I think it'd be a fun trip, especially with you two. Then I said it kind of like I kind of said it facetious like, but no, I think it would be an excellent trip with you all. And I can get a hold of Dave or of Greg and Dana Newkirk and get the real lowdown on where to go. I know, there's connections, like I said, about the cave systems and stuff. And if you look at the cave maps, even the goblins of Hopkinsville, that
was an awesome story. I absolutely loved reading about that and the accounts from the police.
Mm-hmm. The police reports was what gives that validity. And then, the problem with that story is everybody that was involved in that story is dead now, but a few of the kids, and they don't want any part of it at all.
Well, I'm sure they're tired of all the PR and prying into their private life.
I get that. I'm one of these guys that if somebody recognizes me in Walmart or wherever I'm at, and they, hey, yeah, are you the Bigfoot researcher? Nope, don't know what you're talking about. And I'll walk on by. If I'm burnt out on it.
Right.
Just like the TV show when we filmed it, I told the same story over and over again. It's like, you asking me what color is the cup? Well, the cup is red. It has half a cup of water on it. Okay, that's cool. What color was the cup? It's red. It's got a half a cup of water in it. 1,000 times over until you're almost to the point of breaking down and crying. And that's when they get you. That's when that's their final cut, when you are exhausted from it. But then, we fly home the next day, and I had a podcast or something to do. And I was talking to the guys, and I was like pre-show, and I said, guys, they're like, anything you want to talk about in particular? I'm like, nothing about Bigfoot. Let's leave that. I don't
and here I ask you to come on and talk about Bigfoot.
2 years later, I would do it over and over again for you. But, I went through a phase where that 3 or 4 months after we filmed that show, I didn't do nothing. I stayed home and went to work, stayed home, went to work. I didn't get on any podcasts. And, after Gwen and I broke up, I took a long break from Bigfoot and anything else. And I came back and I said, I'm not going to start a Facebook page. Search. I put it on my personal page.
Yeah. Well, you took a hiatus, but now we're talking about goblins, so that should give you a different kind of focus.
Yeah, goblins. I'm really interested. Like I said, the UFOs over the Smokies. I would like to know more about that. If anybody's watching and you have a UFO encounter that's happened near the Smoky Mountains,
please put it in the comments or message Michael. I'm going to read a couple of the. I tell you what I did. We go out to Peddler's Mall and estate sales and stuff like that to look for haunted items that we do for the haunted items hunt. And I found a book in the Peddler's Mall called Ghosts Along the Cumberland, and it's by William Lynwood Montell. And it's an old book, and it has some really historical old ghost stories in it. You're welcome to hang around and listen. I'm going to read two that my grandchildren said. I read like 9 or 10 of the stories to them, and I said, okay, which ones were your favorite? And they could only remember 2 that stood out to them. So I was like, okay, we'll go with those. So I'm going to read 2 stories. And I want to thank you for coming on the show and telling your experiences, and wish you a happy Halloween, and sending you all the love from me and David, and how much, your friendship means to us. And so we just really
I
love
love you all both. I love you all both. You know that. Folks, if you want to see more of me, you can catch me on These Woods Are Haunted on the Travel Channel. This new movie, crap. I forgot what the name of it is. Go find Bigfoot. I forget what it's called now. I'm on a movie about Bigfoot. Amazon
I'll
Prime.
just type it
Check
in the
it out. I don't know
comments.
what it's called.
Just drop it in the
Yeah, I'll type
comments.
it in when I figure it out.
Okay.
Then this podcast, you can rewind it. And as far as everything else, folks, have a very squatchy Halloween and a Merry Christmas and all that good stuff. So,
All right.
Kathryn, I love you.
Guys.
David.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.
All right, let's get to some ghost stories. These are really cool. This is the book. I don't know if you can, it's probably going to be backwards for you, but it's Ghosts of the Cumberland, Ghosts Along the Cumberland, by William Lynwood Montell. I don't even know if this book is still in print or not, but some of the stories in here are freaking awesome. So this first one is Cries of the Dead. And this is Dying Man's Groans Still Heard. I could not believe this story when I was reading it. And so here it goes. And this is your Halloween special, by the way. Dying Man's Groans Still Heard. Well, this is the way the story goes. Many long years ago, it's so far back that the people they didn't have coal oil. The only lights they had was candles. And these were very wealthy people that had built them a big fine house and entertained a lot. Had big balls and dances and things, and these big chandeliers and candles in them and all that stuff. And said one night they was having a ball, and everyone had their lots of music and people dancing and having fun, And one fella came in and says, "You heard about that murder just across down the Tennessee line?" And everybody says, "No, what?" "Well," says, "there's a girl murdered down there, and the fella got away, though." Said, they're still looking for him, and they haven't found him yet. Said they knew who killed her, but said they haven't been able to find him. And so someone said, "Why, Lord, no," said, "he's hiding out somewhere. And see, it's not far from here, is it, to the Tennessee line?" And says, "He might be somewhere in here in Kentucky." Somebody else spoke up and said, "He might be in this very house. No telling." Says, "He hid somewhere. Nobody has found him yet." And so they all got to joking about it. And then somebody says, "The bravest girl here will take a candle and go upstairs and look under the bed." And didn't any of them want to do it? The girl said, "Oh, no, 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 no." But Mr. Bell, that's the owner of the house, Mr. Bell was the name of the people that came in with the lighted candle in his hand, and says, "There never has been a Bell yet that was a coward. So you take this candle and go upstairs and you look under that bed." So she was a shaken. She was Bell's daughter. And she took that candle like her father told her and went upstairs. And when she stooped over and looked under the bed, there laid looking at her, looking out at her, well, she screamed and fainted. And afterwards, they knew, of course, they all that day, aged people started going somewhere. They grabbed a candle to go by. They come with more candles, when they heard her scream, and said afterwards they knew she had dropped her candle on the bed the way the house caught a fire, but nobody noticed it at the time that she had dropped it. they took her downstairs and bathed her face, and took the man. There was a man under the bed, and they took the man and got a rope and tied him up in the basement and went on with the party. After a while, after all the talking while, they went on dancing and music until daylight. Along towards morning, why, the first they knew the fire, they was making so much racket with the dancing and the music and everything, they didn't hear the fire going on overhead. So the first they knew of the fire, the ceiling was falling in, and the house was too far gone to save. The whole top of it had done burned up, and everybody commenced to getting out to save themselves, and they forgot all about the man that they had tied up in the basement, and they heard him moaning and groaning, and it was too late to get him because the house had done caved in on him. And I always tell the children, wasn't no difference anyway, because he'd have been hung, and because he was the man that killed the girl, and there wouldn't no escape for him, But they said they built back, and instead of a frame house that had burnt down, they built back a brick house because they was wealthy people, and so they had insurance. But I don't know. I guess they built it back, another big, fine brick house, but said every night they could hear the same time that the fella burned up in the basement. They could hear him moaning and groaning under the house. And they sold it, and they sold it several times. And everybody declared that they heard the fella down there in the basement moaning and groaning. So finally, the community went together, and Christian people bought the old building and tore it down and built a big, fine church out of it. But they said they could still hear the man under the church moaning and groaning every night. And this was recounted in Adair County, Kentucky in 1964. So that is such an interesting ghost story. And I want to read you guys one more. And this one was really good. My granddaughters absolutely love this one. It's called The Visitor in My Room. And this was an account made in Wayne County, Kentucky in 1938. In passing through a village not many years ago, I stopped to spend the night with a very dear friend whose husband had recently died. This family once lived very close to me, and I had known the husband very well when he was living. I had supper and spent a very pleasant evening with the family, which consisted of the mother and 3 daughters. When it came time to retire for the night, the mother asked me if I was afraid to sleep upstairs. After assuring her that I was not afraid to sleep any place in the house, I was shown to my bedroom, which was a small upstairs room with a wall which seemed to separate it from another room, but there was no door leading to it. Everything seemed very quiet, and I turned out the light, and I was soon asleep. I did not know how long I had been asleep, but I was suddenly awakened by a noise which seemed to be in the room or in the room just behind the wall. It seemed to be a carpenter at work, such sawing and hammering as I'd never heard before. I listened for a few minutes, thinking perhaps it was morning and that somebody was up awake and at work, but finally I decided to turn on the light and see what it was. When I turned on the light, the sawing and hammering stopped, but I could see somebody standing in the corner of the room, the husband of my friend with whom I was spending the night. He had on a dark hat which was slightly drawn over his face, but at once I recognized him. I kept the light on for some time, but I did not speak, and he did not move, but stood perfectly still with the hammer and the saw in his hand. I finally decided there was no use in alarming the family or to continue staring at him, so I again turned out the light. Immediately, the sawing and the hammering began again as loud as ever. Several times during the night, I would again turn on the light. Each time, the noise would stop, and the form of the man would stand perfectly still until the light was out again, us staring at each other. The next morning, the family asked me if I had slept. I replied that something had made a lot of noise, but it might have been rats. They looked at me in abject horror, and the mother said, "Yes, it might have been rats." I hope you guys have a fabulous Halloween this year. This is your Halloween special story today, and I wish you guys a happy rest of 2020. Kisses from Kentucky, and I will see you next Monday night. Have a great week, you guys, and have a fun Halloween. Love you all. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.